So finally back home here in Australia in sunny Ballarat. Just behind me here, they've had the baton relay for the Commonwealth Games come through town and finish up here at Lake Wendouree. The Commonwealth Games is the Olympics for the Queen of England and the Commonwealth countries. That's coming up in a few weeks' time, so bit of a showcase here for Ballarat today. So the trip over to the US, 2.5 weeks of, well, not a lot of YouTubing as you've probably seen. A couple of videos here and there, but not a lot on the daily. Reason for that was it's mostly meetings, and I was hanging out mostly in workplaces of the companies that I do videos about. So a whole week at Zwift HQ, lots of meetings there about what's coming up. Zwift Australia there with Wes Salzberger, we were talking about their possible return and tour that they have every March or April. So watch for that, lots of stuff coming up there, that was pretty cool. Weekend at Disney, after visiting YouTube for a day, that was kind of cool. So weekend at Disney where I got to play around with the 360 camera. And then a flight over to Atlanta to catch up with Wahoo, a flight over to New York to catch up with Zwift for Zwift running. A little bit of touristing here and there. If you follow me on Instagram and Twitter, you would have seen some of my posts up there of me just being a tourist. But in between times, it was all business and all a hell of a lot of fun. Now, one thing I will have to say I'm standing corrected on is the coffee in the US. New York coffee, spot on. LA coffee, not too bad. You got to shop around though, but New York for coffee, absolutely brilliant. Huge shock to the system going from West Coast to East Coast, given the temperature change there. Atlanta wasn't too bad, it was a little cold in Atlanta, but New York, sub-0 degrees Celsius and very, very cold. But good to experience New York in all its gritty, cold, and busyness, I guess you'd call it. It's exactly what you see on the television. So, update for the channel. I have got a pile of stuff to cover. So from here on in, it's going to be head down and as much work as I can get done to share, well, exactly what I've been sharing for the last 12 months plus. I have 3 or 4 power meters to go through. I had another trainer rock up today. All the discussions I've had with the companies, I can bring some footage on that. I rode a watt bike atom over at Zwift HQ, so we can talk about that. What else have I got coming up? It's just an absolute ton of stuff. So I haven't looked at the stats of the channel for the last 2 weeks or so because I've been away. But during Tour Down Under, there was a massive boost. And then from all the content and meetings that I've had over in the US, there's a lot more coming up. So happy days. And I'm out here making the most of what's left of the sunshine for our summer. It will turn soon. And I've only got about, probably only 100 Ks on the bike in the last few weeks. So I've got not much in the legs. Been going for a few runs. So the cardio's good. The legs, they need a bit of work. So I have a 100-kilometre charity ride here from Ballarat this coming Sunday. And I've got to cram in as many rides as I can between now and then. But in between man flu that you inevitably get on catching about 5 or 6 flights in and out of freezing weather, jet lag, I think we'll get through it. So I'm really looking forward to this Sunday. It is so nice to be out right now. Ballarat is brilliant this time of year. So just a short update to let you know where I was at. What other stories do I have? Here's one about Times Square. Flying into New York last Wednesday night. A lot of the crew from Zwift and Co were having dinner, and I thought, well, I've got to make the most of my time here, so I'll go out and do a bit of touristing at about 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night. So I went out, caught the subway to Times Square, which was unbelievable. That, again, everything you've seen on television, everything you think it's going to be, it was absolutely massive. I'm from a small country town, just to put this into context, where I was born and grew up till I was about 7, about this high. It's a town of 300 people. No, we had 2 stop signs, I think, in the entire town. So I'm from a small country town. Going to Times Square, That's the exact opposite. So, jaw-dropping stuff. And Al Sayers, who follows me on Instagram, saw that I was at Times Square and said, "Hey Lama, knock on the door at where he works, which was St. James Theatre. Come say good day." I couldn't do it that night. The next day though, I was there for lunch, catching up with a few people because it seems to be everyone lives in New York, or quite a few people do. Knocked on the door and I had a full tour by Al of a Broadway, what would you call it? It was a Broadway production that was being set up for Disney's Frozen. I couldn't take a lot of photos of it. I'll put up a few still shots here and here of behind the scenes. But again, it's one of those cases of, like over in Adelaide when I descended with Team Sky, it just happened, put the camera on and went with it. I think my lesson there was do more shit. So when Al messaged me, I hadn't met Al before. I'm not sure he had even messaged me before. I thought, yep, let's go knock on the door and have a chat and say good day. And that in itself, that tour of the St. James Theatre on Broadway was unbelievable. Now, how this relates to bikes and Zwift, it does. Al said he saw my video on Apple TV and that gave him the idea to set up a little pain cave on Broadway. In his little office, he had Apple TV, he had his bike crammed in the corner, and he was making the most of the hours that he had during the day, or the spare hours during the day, to get some Zwifting in. And he was chatting all things bike, YouTube, Zwift. Like while we're on Broadway at one of the near on 100-year-old theatres. Absolutely amazing experience. And I was a bit disappointed I couldn't take any footage, but out of respect for Disney and the copyright and everything that was being set up for that, I couldn't take any footage of that. But that was a super cool experience, all through YouTube, because Al follows me here on YouTube. So super cool for that. What else? Walking past Casey Neistat's studio. Now it literally was, I wasn't Neistat stalking. Where I was literally one block from where Casey was. And to find his studio wasn't hard at all. It's actually on Google Maps. Very easy to find Casey. I wasn't knocking on the door or anything like that. It was just sort of walking past and seeing some footage, or seeing some areas that we've seen on his channel quite a bit. And I do Strava stalk Casey, so I knew where to run within New York. So the next morning I went for a run, and look, I could have done a standard Casey vlog of running along there, but I guess that's not what this channel's about. I don't do much of the travel stuff or really what I'm up to. I guess more on that as well. At Zwift HQ, I was there for a week hot desking, using their Wi-Fi and green screen here and there. I'm not really one to grab a camera and go around people's workplace and stick it in their face and talk about what's coming up and all that. I leave it to the others to do that. I'll cover whatever can be of value to what I'm up to, whatever I find interesting, and I respect the workplaces. The same with Wahoo. I did some footage of Wahoo's workplace, but again, shooting in 4K, you've got to be careful what's seen and what's not, and it is people's workplace, so I totally respect that. But I did get some cool B-roll from Wahoo. We saw the climb in action, the production version of the climb, final couple of tests that's going through. We saw the SpaceX launch. Look, I'll keep it at that. I'll do a whole video on Wahoo. That was kind of cool to see those guys and girls over there getting their work done. What else? That's probably about it. The long haul flights weren't too bad. I guess the flight home was probably the one. It was the hardest, 6 hours, New York, LAX. Layover at LAX for a few hours. LAX to Melbourne, 16, plus or minus a bit of taxiing and things like that, but it wasn't too bad. You tackle those just like a long ride. You get some Cliff Bars, you drink water, you stretch, and watch a movie, fall to sleep, and then you're halfway there, and you repeat. So that wasn't too bad. So a little bit of content coming up from the trip itself, but more so over the next few months, I guess, will be the results of the meetings that I had and what's coming up soon. So speaking of what's coming up soon, Eurobike 2018 is in, what are we on? We're mid-Feb now. Eurobike starts in July this year when the tour is on. So it's going to be flat out for Eurobike this year, which should be good. By all means, stick around for that. And for the next few weeks, we're going to go pretty hard on the tech, on the fun, on the bike rides, and then we're back to the US for Easter. All right, I'll leave it there for now. Thanks for watching. I've got to get more Ks in these legs for this ride coming up this weekend. All right, see you soon. Away you go. Thanks, mate.